Hello, listeners. Welcome to Dentist's Coffee Time.
Today we're doing something a bit different, maybe a bit ambitious. We're taking a deep dive, not just into techniques, but into the philosophy of beauty itself, really.
Yeah, we're stepping outside the clinic for a bit. We're heading into this, well, fascinating world of high-end, antique Chinese ceramics.
Exactly. To tackle one of those really fundamental questions in advanced restorative work, when you create that truly beautiful smile, are you being an artist? Intuitive.
Or is it more about being a scientist, rigorously applying rules and techniques you've mastered?
Precisely. And our way in is through some fantastic source material about a legendary figure, Dr. Morton Amsterdam. We'll call him Dr. A.
Right. His professional life was all about dental innovation, absolutely groundbreaking stuff. But it was his private passion, this obsession with collecting ancient porcelain, that actually led him to this revelation. It really challenges that romantic idea of the lone artistic genius.
It's an amazing story, actually, about a master craftsman, a ceramicist, who achieved seemingly perfect replication. And this forced Dr. A, and well, it forces us too, to really think about whether true beauty is unique, or is it maybe just the outcome of mastering an incredibly precise technology.
It's like the ultimate test, isn't it? Can beauty be perfectly copied?
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this whole art versus science thing. Maybe start with just defining what we even mean by aesthetics in the first place.
Good starting point.
Okay, so when we talk aesthetics, especially for those really complex dental cases, the words we use, they can get a bit fuzzy, can't they?
Totally. You hear harmony, balance, or my favorite, that sort of undefinable vibe. It sounds nice, but what does it mean?
Exactly. And, if we want to actually teach this stuff, if we want to analyze it, replicate high-quality results consistently, we've got to move beyond just intuition, beyond the vibe.
Yeah, I think that's a hurdle for a lot of dentists, especially earlier on. You see this gorgeous, perfectly customized smile, and you think, wow, that's magic, pure art. And maybe you miss the complex web underneath it, all the measurements, the proportions, the material science that actually makes that beauty possible.
Spot on. The source material we looked at introduces this really helpful model. Think of it like a Venn diagram. You've got three overlapping circles: art, beauty, and science technology.
Okay, I can picture that.
So art. That's maybe the realm of creative expression, often driven by intuition, like you said. Science or technology, that's the other side. It's quantifiable, it's analyzable, it's reproducible. Think rules, materials, techniques.
Got it. Art is the feeling, science is the formula. So where does beauty land in this diagram?
Well, beauty is often that sweet spot, the subjective experience you get when you see the successful overlap of the art and the science. But here's the really critical part. That definition of aesthetics. What we agree is beautiful, what works, it's not set in stone. It actually changes across different cultures, different times. It evolves based on which rules of form and structure are seen as important then.
Oh, that's interesting. So like the ideal tooth proportions from, say, 50 years ago, they look different from today's standards.
Precisely. And why? Because our scientific tools for observing, measuring, documenting, they've gotten way better. Our understanding of the rules has evolved.
Okay, that makes sense. So if the goalposts for aesthetics keep moving based on new knowledge and consensus, then it has to be grounded in rules you can actually define and measure. If it was just pure random intuition, well, you couldn't teach it, right?
Exactly. You couldn't have generations of clinicians consistently hitting a recognized standard. But let me anticipate your next thought.
Go on.
Is the absolute best aesthetic work just about following the rules? Isn't there still that spark? That inspired moment that separates the real masters.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Where does that genius fit in?
That's the core tension, isn't it? And that's why this story about Dr. A and his ceramics is so powerful. Because you look really closely, often that inspired creation, the capital art, it's actually just the absolute highest level of disciplined execution, which loops back to science.
So the master isn't breaking the rules. They've just internalized them so deeply.
Precisely. They've absorbed the constraints, light, form, materials, composition so profoundly that their execution looks instantaneous, intuitive, like magic. But it's built on a foundation of science. So for you, the clinician listening, the message is pretty clear, actually. Focus on mastering the rules, the science, because that mastery is what drives consistent, beautiful, reproducible results. The goal isn't to be a mystical artist. It's to make the complexity feel simple, predictable, through really rigorous analysis and practice.
Predictable beauty through rigorous analysis. I like that. That feels like something Dr. A, given his background, would have really connected with.
I think so too.
Which brings us perfectly to the man himself. Okay, let's really paint a picture of Dr. A, Dr. Morton Amsterdam, DDS, SCD, FACD, Professor Emeritus at Penn Dental Medicine. I mean, his influences, it's huge. Still felt today. He's internationally known as the father of periodontal prosthesis.
And we really need to pause on that title, Periodontal Prosthesis. It sounds technical, and it is, but it's not just, fillings and crowns. This is the absolute peak of complex restorative dentistry.
Right. We're talking about rebuilding mouths that are severely compromised. Damaged teeth, damaged gums, the whole system.
Exactly. It merges periodontics, the gum health, with restorative dentistry, and advanced prosthetics like implants, complex crowns, bridges, all working together.
Yeah.
It demands incredible surgical skills, sure, but also this really deep understanding of biomechanics, how forces work in the mouth. And critically for our chat today, high-end aesthetics.
Making it all function perfectly and look completely natural, even when you're dealing with tissues that aren't ideal to start with.
That's the challenge. He was operating right at that intersection. Biology, engineering, art. Every single day. His legacy at Penn is massive. They named the D. Walter Cohen and Morton Amsterdam Periodontal Clinic after him. Even the deanship there is the Morton Amsterdam deanship. He basically defined excellence in that field for decades.
Wow. Okay, so a giant in his professional field. But then there's this other side, this private life that our sources reveal.
Yeah, running completely in parallel. His deep, deep passion for collecting Chinese ceramics, specifically from the Ming and Qing dynasties. And he wasn't just casual about it, not just a few pots on the shelf. He was a serious, dedicated collector.
And we get this great little detail about his house, his American home. Apparently, it lacked a xuanguan, a traditional foyer or entryway common in many East Asian homes.
Right, that sort of buffer space between the outside world and the inside of the home.
But in Dr. A's place, you just walked right in. Boom. You were immediately face-to-face with his collection. Small living room, apparently, leading straight into this world of antique porcelain. It just shows how central it was to his life,
Absolutely. And this wasn't some late-life hobby either. His dedication started incredibly early and with serious discipline. He apparently told a story. When he first started practicing, his monthly salary was tiny, like $90 a month.
Wow, $90?
Yeah. And he made a strict rule for himself. 50% of that $45 went straight to buying plates. He'd be running around antique shops in Philadelphia picking up pieces. Many of them he thought might have come over with the Eight Nation Alliance forces, these that were considered relatively inexpensive back then.
$45 out of 90 on plates.
Mm-hmm.
That's commitment. That tells you something about his priorities. He valued this art, these historical objects, maybe even more than basic comforts at the time.
It really does. And this dedication continued his whole life. It even led to this famous plate protocol he had in his own home.
Ah, yes, the plate protocol. Tell us about that.
Well, it perfectly shows how he mentally separated the true art from the merely functional. So on the upper shelves in his display, those were the genuine, irreplaceable antiques. The rule for them was absolute hand wash only, no exceptions.
Handle with extreme care. Sacred objects, almost.
Exactly. But then the plates on the lower shelves, those were different. Maybe lesser pieces, maybe even good reproductions, but they were considered usable, functional items, and those were allowed in the dishwasher.
Okay, so a very clear line. Upper shelf, precious art, needs careful human touch. Lower shelf, functional object, can handle the machine, the repeatable scientific process of cleaning.
It's a brilliant practical distinction, isn't it? It reflects a deep emotional and intellectual separation. And crucially, his interest wasn't just about owning them or the thrill of the hunt.
No, he approached it like his dentistry, right, with academic rigor.
Absolutely. Yeah. He didn't just collect, he studied. He formally took courses in Oriental philosophy and art at Penn. He dug into the history, the culture, and most importantly for where this story is going, the complex technical evolution of how these ceramics were made.
So he understood the science behind the art.
He did. And that academic depth, combined with his collector's eye, really set the stage for a major challenge to his understanding. A confrontation was coming. So imagine combining that sharp, precise eye of a top clinician, someone used to working under magnification, noticing tiny details with a serious academic grounding in art history and materials. That's the kind of connoisseur Dr. A became.
And this really came out during a trip he took to Taiwan, right, to the National Palace Museum. the gugong.
Exactly. You'd think a VIP like him might just politely follow the official museum tour guide.
Yeah, nod along politely.
But no. The sources say he completely bypassed the guide. Basically said, thanks, but I don't need your help. And instead, he became the guide. He started teaching his companions how to really look at these ceramics, analytically.
That takes some confidence. So what was he showing them?
This is where the science of appreciating art really comes through. He was demonstrating that he could actually date pieces, sometimes going back centuries, even to the Song dynasty, just by looking, just by analyzing the color and the technical details of the glaze.
Without reading the label, just from the object itself.
Just from the object. He didn't need a placard. He argued the piece itself contained all the necessary data points for authentication if you knew how to read them.
Okay, that's impressive. Did he give examples?
He did, really specific ones, which really highlights his technical knowledge. For instance, he taught them how to spot the subtle differences in the shades of blue used during 3 specific reigns in the Qing dynasty: Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong.
Okay, different emperors, different blues.
Different blues. He explained how the deep, maybe slightly darker blue from the Kangxi period was chemically and structurally distinct from the lighter, maybe more vibrant blue used later under Qianlong.
Wow, so it wasn't just, oh, that's a nice blue. He knew why it was different.
Precisely. Let's dig into that for a second, because it's key. He wasn't just getting a feeling of blueness. He was, in his mind, analyzing the probable cobalt oxide content, the impurities likely present in the pigment source used during that specific period, the likely firing temperature, the oxygen levels in the kiln.
Whoa.
Right. All these variables create predictable, scientifically reproducible results. The recognizable Kangxi blue exists because it followed a specific historical recipe, a formula, essentially.
It's a scientific blueprint for blue.
You got it.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop there. He also taught them about the glaze application itself, the science of it. He could tell if the colored glaze was applied on top of the base clay or underglaze design, what we might call surface application, or if it was applied under the final clear overglaze before firing a subsurface technique.
Okay, wait, let me connect that back for our listeners. Is that kind of like in dentistry, distinguishing between, say, external stains applied on the surface of a crown versus internal characterization stains built into the layers of porcelain?
That is a perfect analogy, exactly. Both methods create color, but they have totally different optical effects, different ways they interact with light, different long-term stability even. And to an expert eye, whether it's Dr. A looking at a vase or you looking at a restoration, the technique used is instantly recognizable. It follows scientific principles.
Okay, got it. So his ability to dissect these pieces wasn't some mystical art critic power.
Not at all. It proves the main point here. Art, even this incredibly revered, centuries-old porcelain, is built on a bedrock of specific, definable, analyzable rules. Science. Dr. A's expertise came from mastering the scientific and historical criteria that define beauty and authenticity in that specific context.
That mastery, that confidence in the rules he knew, it was about to get seriously shaken up.
Profoundly challenged, yes. His whole framework was about to collide with the ultimate expression of reproducible technology.
Take a break, we'll be back. 1 second pause. Welcome back.
So Dr. A has just blown away his companions at the National Palace Museum with his analytical prowess, right?
Right.
Dating ceramics by glaze, color, and technique.
Yeah, he's established himself as the expert.
Well, right after that, his host in Taiwan arranged a very special private visit. They went to a place called Xiao-Fang Studio, that's Yoyai in Mandarin, located in EP2, just outside Taipei. This studio was famous for its replicas, and it was run by a master artisan named Sai Xiao-Fang.
Okay, so they go from the museum filled with originals to a studio known for copies. And this Sai Xiao-Fang, his background is really important here, isn't it? He wasn't trained as a traditional artist.
Not initially, no. And this is crucial to the whole art versus science debate. Sai Xiao-Fang first studied electrical engineering, then he specialized in kiln engineering. His foundation was pure technology, materials science, heat transfer, control systems.
Wow, okay. Not exactly sculpting classes.
Not at all. And then his career path gave him this unbelievable hands-on education. For over 30 years, he worked as a technician inside the National Palace Museum. His job, repairing and restoring the priceless artifacts.
Wait, so he was handling the actual broken pieces of Ming and Qing dynasty masterpieces?
Imagine. He had to figure out, by reverse engineering the fragments, the exact firing temperatures the original masters used, the precise mineral mix in their glazes, the construction methods. He learned from the failures, from the broken bits, how the originals were perfectly made.
That's like learning dentistry by only studying failed root canals and fractured crowns. You'd learn exactly what not to do and therefore what to do. He got the ultimate blueprint for perfection by studying imperfection.
Beautifully put. So when he eventually retired from the museum and opened his own studio, Xiao-Fang, in 1975, he basically weaponized all that technical knowledge. He didn't just make nice pots. He focused on replication.
And he got good at it.
So good that the National Palace Museum itself recognized his unique skill. Starting around 1983, they actually commissioned him to make flawless copies of pieces from their collection, from the 5 dynasties period right up through the Qing, for museum exhibitions for display purposes.
Hold on. The museum, the guardian of the originals, paid him to make fakes. Well, replicas.
Perfect replicas. Think about that. They needed copies for study, for display in less secure areas, maybe for official gifts. He made reproduction tea sets for historically significant spaces like Sangsi Hall, furnishings for the replica of the Qianlong Emperor's study. His technical mastery was undisputed.
He must have been incredibly confident.
Apparently, utterly confident. He reportedly claimed that if you gave him the pattern, the blueprint, the design, he could create an exact duplicate. Chemically identical, structurally identical, and most importantly, aesthetically identical to the antique original.
That's almost scary. It's the ultimate victory of technology over the mystique of the unique artifact.
It really is. And this incredible power, this mastery of scientific replication, set the stage for the big moment, the climax of Dr. A's visit to the studio.
Okay, here it comes.
Sai Xiao-Fang, the master replicator, knowing Dr. A's reputation as this discerning collector. He presents Dr. A with a plate, a replica plate, specifically one made in the style of and bearing the mark or seal of the Qianlong period. A high-status, desirable piece.
The kind of piece Dr. A could supposedly identify just by looking at the blue glaze hours earlier.
Exactly that kind of piece. So Dr. A, the expert, takes the plate, he handles it, turns it over, examines the glaze, the color, the feel, the weight, how the light hits it, applying all those analytical criteria he'd just been teaching at the museum.
The moment of truth.
And then, complete shock, intellectual breakdown almost. After studying it carefully, Dr. A had to concede. The sources say his reaction was just utter astonishment. He managed only 3 words.
Let me guess. Oh my God.
Oh my God. That was it.
Wow.
And he followed it up with the honest truth. I can't tell if this is real or fake. Think about that. This wasn't just about being wrong about a plate. This struck at the very heart of his passion, his expertise, maybe even the financial and emotional value of his entire collection back home.
Yeah, if he couldn't tell the difference, who could? Did the art of the original even matter if it could be perfectly copied?
That was exactly the implication. He apparently confessed his worry right then there. Maybe some of his own beloved antiques, the ones he hand-washed on the upper shelves. Maybe they were actually just incredibly good replicas too. It completely undermined that sense of unique, irreplaceable sanctity he'd built around them.
That's a profound challenge. If a replica is scientifically perfect, if the technology perfectly executes the blueprint, does the artistic value we assign to the original just because it's old or unique kind of evaporate?
It suggests that maybe the art, the beauty we perceive, is really just the visible result of a complex but ultimately reproducible set of scientific rules. Master the rules, master the science, and you can reproduce the beauty.
And that thought, I think that snaps us right back to the dental chair, right back to that anterior veneer case someone listening might be planning right now.
Exactly. Why does centuries-old pottery matter to modern dentistry? This is why. Okay, so that dramatic moment, Dr. Amsterdam facing Master Sai's perfect replica, it really drives the point home, doesn't it? Aesthetics, true beauty, seems deeply, deeply rooted in science, in those measurable, reproducible rules.
Yeah, if beauty was just some mystical, intuitive art, then Sai Xiao-Fang couldn't possibly have replicated that Qianlong plate so perfectly that it fooled Dr. A. It wouldn't be possible.
Right. And think back to Dr. A's other role as a professor, the fact that he and countless other educators could successfully train generations of clinicians to achieve highly aesthetic results in something as complex as periodontal prosthesis.
Proves they were teaching a system, a science of how to get beautiful results predictably, not just hoping students would magically develop an eye for it.
Exactly. Let's make that connection even more concrete. Let's map the ceramic rules directly onto the dental rules you use every day.
Okay, I like this. Lay it out.
All right. In ceramics, Master Sai had to analyze and control the glaze composition. The specific mix of minerals, fluxes, metal oxides. It dictates how light passes through, the color saturation, the surface texture.
Okay. And in dentistry?
Well, you, the clinician, or your technician, you're analyzing and selecting the restoration material composition. Is it Emax? What translucency level? Is it zirconia? Which type? How much yttria is stabilizing it? You're controlling opacity, translucency, value, chroma. It's the same fundamental material science challenge, just with different powders.
That's a direct parallel. Okay, what else?
Sai had to master firing temperature and kiln atmosphere. The precise heat, the oxygen levels, these determine the final color, the crystal structure, the strength of the ceramic.
And in dentistry, we rely on absolutely precise sintering or pressing protocols. The exact temperature curves in the furnace, the pressure applied, that controls the material's final strength, its fit, its shade, its vitality. Miss that protocol, and the result fails.
Spot on. Another direct scientific parallel. And one more. Dr. A's expert eye for the form and contour of the plate, the subtle curve of the rim, the depth, how it reflects light.
That's mirrored exactly in how we analyze tooth morphology, right? Incisal edge position, line angles, emergence profile, proximal contours. These are the geometric rules, the light management principles that make a restoration look like a real tooth and not just a white chiclet.
Perfect. So the underlying principles, material science, thermal processing, geometry, optics, they're the same. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. When Sai makes a perfect replica vase, it's beautiful, but it's static, inert material. When you place that perfect anterior veneer, you're not just matching a shade guide. You have to integrate that inert restoration with living dynamic tissue. The gingiva, the papilla, there's biology involved. Surely that requires an art that goes beyond just replicating the ceramic science.
That's a great question. The tissue interface, the pink aesthetics, that does feel more unpredictable, more biological.
It is biological. But is achieving success there truly art in the mystical sense? Or is it mastering another set of scientific rules? Think about Dr. A's own specialty, periodontal prosthesis. It was all about the science of merging prosthetic form with biological function.
So you're saying getting that perfect gum contour, that healthy papilla fell, that's also rule-based?
Absolutely. It comes down to meticulously respecting the rules of restoration margin placement relative to the bone. Designing the correct emergence profile so the tissue isn't compressed or left with voids. Honoring the biologic width. These are scientifically established principles. If you violate those biological rules, no amount of artistic sculpting of the ceramic is going to save the case long term. The tissue will get inflamed, recede, the aesthetics will fail.
Okay. So the beautiful shape of the restoration can only succeed if it operates within the boundaries set by the biological science. The science dictates the canvas the art can be painted on.
You've got it. Therefore, the true mastery, the expertise that looks like magic. It isn't some undefinable touch. It's having such a deep, ingrained analytical command of all the relevant scientific rules, material, optical, geometric, and biological, that you could adapt them instantly and execute flawlessly, even in a complex, variable clinical situation.
It's like being Sai Xiao-Fang, but your kiln is the patient's mouth, and you have to account for biology too. You need the perfect blueprint derived from science and then perfect execution.
That's the goal. The master clinician makes the complex seem simple because they've reduced the variables through scientific understanding. Aesthetic success isn't about randomly hoping for beauty. It's about understanding the science so intimately that the beautiful, artistic result becomes a predictable, reproducible outcome. #tag outro.
Wow. What a journey today. We started with Dr. Morton Amsterdam, this giant in dentistry, and dove into his very personal passion for Chinese ceramics.
We saw how his sharp clinical eye could dissect the science hidden within antique glazes right there in the National Palace Museum.
Only to have his entire framework, his definition of unique art, completely upended by the shocking perfection of Master Sai Xiao-Fang's scientifically produced replicas.
And the big takeaway, really, is that whether you're crafting a priceless-looking vase or a life-changing smile, that consistent high-level aesthetic result, it's built on a solid, deep foundation of science, rules that can be analyzed, taught, and mastered.
Which brings us, as always, to a final thought for you, our listeners. A question to maybe mull over as you tackle your next challenging aesthetic case. If the art part of aesthetics, the beautiful appearance, can potentially be perfectly replicated through total mastery of the underlying science, where does the real value lie? Is it only in how the final product looks? Or is there unique value in the initial innovation, the breakthrough that first established the technique, the blueprint that now allows for that perfect replication?
And how does thinking about that distinction, innovation versus replication, maybe shift how you approach your own clinical work, how you define and strive for mastery in your practice.
Something to think about. Thank you for listening to Dentist's Coffee Time.
Bye-bye. 1 second pause.